Night has fallen and you're weary from travel. Stars fill the sky above, and in front of you is a brightly lit wooden house, the only building you've seen for days. You walk toward the house, hearing the sounds of laughter and talk as you reach the door and push it open. You sit down and join the game. It's a cheap buy-in, and not many of the other players are very good. The lady fiddling with dice gets good cards, but has no real strategy. The man to your right seems to just hold on to the highest cards he has, regardless of suit or any consideration of matches. The man in gray across from you, though, he's good. He already had the largest pile of coins when you bought in, and while your winnings grow quickly, you can't quite catch him. One by one, the other players leave the table, sometimes with pique or with wry humor, leaving their winnings with you or the man in gray. Finally, it's just you and the man in gray. He looks at you, full of humor, and winks. Last hand? He deals, you draw, and look at your hand. It's good. It's great. The best hand, in fact. A royal straight flush. Spades. Aces high. But the man in gray pushes forward his whole pile. You're not sure exactly how much it is, but it's more than you've got. You can't match that. The man in gray stops you. Now, if you like, I'll let you wager your word. I know you'll be good for it. Just promise you'll pay the debt, however I ask. Yep, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. All spades. The man in gray smiles. All right, then. I'll call.
Well, your luck wasn't so good, was it? That's quite the hand, but not for the game we're playing. I'm afraid you owe me. Your life, sure, but more than that, your labor. You see, this land is built on stories. It's one big story, this country, woven of many small ones. Few of the small ones are strictly true, and the big story is mostly a lie. All the stories and songs and myths and legends start somewhere, with a seed. As they're told and retold and passed around, they grow and change to become the stories we know. To pay your debt to me, you'll be carrying stories, finding the seeds first and then spreading them, telling them onwards so they can begin gaining strength. This is no light task. Stories are heavy. Most of the stories you'll find will be small seeds. They might be true, but they grow wild and unbelievable with the telling. The more important stories are the true ones, the ones people will tell you about their own lives. Those often get lost in the weaves of the big story. The more true stories you can find and tell, the more you can weave that truth into the big story. Tarnish it a bit perhaps, but isn't a dingy and battered truth better than a shining lie? Now, go ahead. You tell me a story. I'll trade you some information about your task. It's just luck. Funny how bad luck seems to follow the folks who already have problems aplenty. Well, try your luck out there in this country. See how the dice treat you. It's not all bad. You'll have to work hard, but I'll give you the gift for seeing the true shapes of people. Not many who can do that. You'll sometimes have to make choices about what kind of story you're finding. Is it a love story or a tragedy? Don't gather too many of one kind, though. This grand story needs variety. Your deepest desires, your greatest wish, heaven? Big Rock Candy Mountain, El Dorado, the promised land, that place just over the ridge where they all say that the water tastes just like the sweetest wine. Well, I don't know where that is. It's supposed to be somewhere in this country. Ask the people you meet. They're all searching for the same thing. I'll strip away your flesh to make the journey easier, but still you'll feel pain. Hunger, weariness, thirst, and despair. They're all part of stories, the part not often told. And death, yes, but don't worry. As long as your task remains, you come back. Travel? That's your job. Wander from place to place, gather those stories and spread them. People get bored hearing the same stories over and over. But an old cliché in one state might be a rip-roaring new yarn in another. Go on your way, seeker. Maybe we'll meet again, or maybe not. Either way, it'll be an experience for you. I'm jealous in some ways. I hope you find what you're looking for.
This bungalow is being ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard, ammunition heaped under the mailbox, and a crowd of clean-cut men ripping apart a car in the driveway. The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch railing share the same bored grin. One shouts at you.
Lend a couple innocent gals a cigarette?
You are about to hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. You know these girls? They demand. Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless.
If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash,
sneers one. On the porch behind him, the two bootleggers are fingering their empty rifles, grinning in disappointment.
This will be my tale, my vagrant song.
Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle. The shape gives a start.
Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here.
It says in a small voice.
Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore, but I want to go with him. Don't tell him, please. I'm hiding.
You tell the boy you'll keep his secret. You don't see his father anywhere. You don't see another soul for miles. You can see storm clouds on the horizon, and you don't relish the thought of being caught wandering this rocky seaside road in the rain. Fortunately, you find the lighthouse door open, with a daunting staircase before you. At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level. Muffled voices and light seep in beneath the door. Looks like we got a visitor. Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough.
Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door.
Another man, this one with a higher, more sonorous voice. I always behave myself. He feigns indignation, but his tone betrays affection instead. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge hand.
Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in.
Despite the rough exterior, this room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trod wooden floor and an enormously plush couch. And sat upon it is a stocky fellow grinning through a great hazel-colored beard. "Tea?" he offers, hoisting a teapot.
A few years.
The tall one sits on the sofa, wrapping his arm casually around the other lighthouse keeper. "5, says the smaller, but by no means small, man.
That long? Time flies. We traveled together before that. You must have some good stories from the road, huh?
You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea. And cakes? There might have been little cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave. The woman walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis. A confident stride and inimitable mannerisms elevating the sidewalk into a plush Hollywood carpet. And wrapped around her neck, a yellow velvet ribbon, bright as an ocean sunrise. You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house.
Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date, and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coupe? That's the spirit.
You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner.
Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work, doesn't live anywhere as far as I know. Just around. Myself, I'd love to know who made all her beautiful clothes.
A longshoreman watches stevedores load up a crane. Yellow ribbon? That woman's dead. Ghost dead. Buddies of mine, they've seen her all over the Atlantic for decades now. They don't come every year, you know. The old man is sitting at the edge of a rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the water. He watches a pair of seagulls preen and groom each other on a rock just off the shore. Just when the fishing is going to be good. He taps great, black, thick globs of spent tobacco out of a huge ceramic pipe. I got another year, I guess. Another year of this town being here, he replies, letting a grin spread across his face. If the seagulls came, that means enough fish to keep it in place. A dusty truck and a man on horseback pull up next to one another in front of the grocer. Suddenly, the driver and the rider, two wiry old men with identical haircuts, start shrieking at one another. The man with the truck leaps into the street.
Brother!
He shouts. The one on the horse tumbles out of his saddle.
Brother!
He screams. They embrace in the road.
30 years!
Hollers the driver. The rider, tears streaming down over his face, corrects him.
No! 32!
Everyone here is watching these two older men cry and hug one another in the middle of Main Street. Cars and wagons are backing up. People are yelling.
Take a photo of us!
The driver begs you. Starts hauling a tripod out of the bed of his truck. As you usher them onto the sidewalk, the driver says,
Joe, I thought you were dead.
The rider freezes.
Joe?
He blurts.
I'm not Joe.
The two men stare at one another, each slowly recognizing something alien in their mistaken brother's face. women are oblivious to your approach. Their eyes are shut. Their touch, where they hold hands, is gentle. They speak in low tones. One stifles a burst of laughter, but it brings a smile to their faces.
Sorry,
Says the one who laughed.
don't be.
Another assures her. They don't look up.
And we give thanks for those who have left us, who we wanted gone, for the skills to thrive without them, and for the companions who make the effort joyful.
The voice of the youngest wavers. The woman to her left squeezes her hand. This is not a scene to intrude upon. You come across a girl picking wild blueberries. She smiles and greets you.
On in.
She offers you some from her birch bark basket. You reach in the basket for blueberries, but pull out a handful of small, smooth stones, all the colors of the rainbow. The snickering girl runs into the trees as fast and light as a rabbit. The stones tumble from your hand and hit the ground, instantly turning black as the night. Your heart leaps in surprise. How strange.
Well, I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep that stride stuck in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, I won't be no one else to dig my hole. Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who bury me.
Low tide on a moonless night. This beach is long, stretching toward a receding sea. In the darkness, the sand seems coarse and gray, alien. The stars are dim and distant. It outshines the stars with its presence, a streak of sickly colored light, leaving a trail of distorted fire. It slowly creeps along the sky like a vast worm, though you know that, given the distance, it must be moving at great speed. And there, near the water's edge, a human figure. They stand there, transfixed by the light. 1, 2, 3 steps, ankles lowering into the surf. Silent collapse into a black wave, bathed in a nameless color. Then, nothing.
Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman come for to tally up my this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night
This city is like no other you've been to. Crooked streets splay out in a maze of narrow passages, no two alike. Soon, you find yourself in twilight, utterly lost. Bright light crests around one corner, a car approaching. Unable to afford rescue, you keep walking. The asphalt turns to crooked cobblestones that threaten to wrench your ankle out of place. Was this always a moonless night? The stars multiply, each one looking like a pinprick through which light is exiting the terrestrial world. It's hard finding your way through in pitch darkness. You go by touch and sound, feeling the scale of the streets by the echoing of your footsteps, fingers tracing the rough surface of the buildings. And then, a rumble of noise in the distance. You quiet yourself, suddenly fearful. The clear sky tells you it's not thunder, but cannon fire. The city comes alive with fires and shouting. You find yourself trampled by a mob of men in thick brown coats, a phalanx of bayonets advancing up the street. When you come to, there's no sign of the commotion, the war that you were just caught in. The comically shrill honk of a Model A running up the road startles you, and you crawl toward the sidewalk. Above, the sky is a sharp, cold, cloudless blue. Outside the small thicket of apple trees, the phrase "tended to by John Chapman" is carved into a fence post. Nearby, a hound lies on its side, perfectly still. Flies buzz around its ears. But a grizzled man pauses at his digging to shoo them off. There's an extra shovel. With it, the two of you make short work of the grave. He tells you about his beliefs, why he's raising apple orchards in the middle of the country. It's a sin to graft, he tells you. Hurts the tree. Eventually, the hole is deep enough. He stoops to the ground and lowers the pup into the earth. Tears flow freely. I'll see him again in heaven, he tells you. Our souls are bound by love. He wipes his eyes. I don't think I can bear to stay here, though. Maybe I'll set out again.
Hey there, stranger. You're welcome to enjoy this fire with me, if you're respectful, that is. This here is my spot, and I ain't inclined to share it with any bad characters. You can call me Quinn. These here are my venturing companions. Cass is the big un, and the one with the spots is Flip. I usually beat my way on the rails, but the road news said this town was fat, and the weather was fine. So I'm taking in the sights and seeing what I can drum up. Hey, tell me a funny story. You seem like you still got a sense of humor. That was a chuckle, to be sure. Well, I don't know a whole lot about the past, but they say there's an Injun grave round these parts. Say it's haunted and full up with angry spirits. I used to love hearing stories of cowboys and Injuns fighting it up. Would swap tales with the young'uns. But, well, I suppose if someone shot me, I'd be pretty vengeful too. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those. Well, that sure was a downer. Give me a good venture tale instead any day. Traveling, I sure do love it, and I seen some pretty things out there. I seen serpent trains passing on a green and gold sea. I seen mountains so tall and forests so thick, nobody will ever tame 'em. I once seen a bunch of townies skinny dipping in a river. That sure was something. I seen terrible things too. Biblical floods and starving folks, and black blizzards full of dust. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories. Well, that was a lively tale. Authority, bosses and such. I ain't nobody's little Angelina, if that's what you're asking. I take care of myself and my dogs. I don't need no jocker looking out for me, so if you're offering, don't. Shoot, I thought I told you to be respectful. You want to keep enjoying my spot or not? Think about that. You got any stories that are a little sad? Shoot, I ain't teared up. Just got something in my eyes, all. Wishes come true, huh? If I had to say, it'd be great to have red beans and rice cooked with some fatty bacon. Supposed to be a Mississippi River specialty, but I ain't never had it. I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? Ain't life got enough tearjerkers in it without telling stories like that? Jeez. My family. There ain't no way I'm gonna start jaw-flapping about those bastards. Judases, the lot of them. Enough said. Oh, heck, the night's over already. I sure enjoyed talking to you, but I gotta get on. I think I'll see what's happening up the road this way. The tramping life suits me just fine. Every day's a venture. With things being so depressed, folks walk around like it's the end of everything good. But it ain't. Plenty nice things to see if you know where to look.
Muddling through the dark, you stumble into the path of the white deer. Its beauty strikes you at once. It is something otherworldly, beyond borders, a moon swimming in the void. Human shouts not far away break the spell. The deer's ears prick up. This thing is being hunted. You know a way out of here. As the hunter's cries get louder, you approach the deer carefully, palms outstretched. As you grow close, your features become clearer in the light of the deer's aura. It bolts into the path of an oncoming train. Clouds roll together to fill the sky. The lightning is so strong that it seems to open a path in the haze above you. You are sure you see massive talons curved around the clouds. The thunder is so immense that the ground trembles. Your lips and hands tingle from the electric charge that fills the air until the dancing lightning passes on over the hills. You hear the whippoorwill first, shrill and close. Then you see him, high up above the black streaks of wires. A lineman, fraying belt holding him to the pole. A damned bird has come to perch on a power line, stare hungrily at the man's soul. He's unsteady. His hands are shaky, and his body sways in the wind. You spot his tool bag next to the pole, worn and frayed, much like the man. A half-gone bottle of cheap rye pokes out of it. What's he gonna do? Come down from the pole? You snatch it from his bag in one quick motion and walk away. Hey! He starts, but whatever he's about to say slips into a slurred whine as his belt snaps. His body plummets, his limbs go slack with the understanding of what is happening to him. He tumbles into the tall, dry grass by the side of the road with a muffled noise. all you hear is the call of the whippoorwill. Eager, loud, thankful. A few wanderers like you are looking for a place to camp.
We heard there's a Leatherman cave nearby.
They tell you. They describe a locally famous vagrant who hiked this area for almost 30 years.
He's dead now, but his caves are the best place to camp at any town.
You and the other wanderers find the cave easily, because someone's lit a fire there. As you approach, you see a silhouette bend over the flames with an odd, creaking sound, like a door swinging in the wind. His coat is crudely stitched from leather plates that squeak against each other.
The Leatherman.
One of the others whispers.
A ghost.
The Leatherman must have heard, but he just stares. His face is corpse still. He's eating, you say, and point out his can of beans.
Je ne suis pas un fantôme,
The Leatherman says, and adds,
idiot. Oh,
bursts your companion.
Canadien.
Soon, he and the Leatherman are deep in conversation, and your group has a safe place to rest.
Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that very man come for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much behind to drag.
Stranger, it's good to see you again. You know, I'm gonna see this whole world one day, but for now, I just got my sights set on seeing all 48 of the great U.S. I already seen 10 whole states, That's better than my folks ever done, that's for sure. Plenty of townies and even some tramps treat me like I'm kid simple, but I ain't helpless, and I only act it when I ain't got no better choice, like if I get pinched. I do right fine on my own, don't need nobody but Cass and Flip. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories. Whoa, quite a story, stranger. This country. I don't rightly know what this thing called America is. I know what I done been told in school, but the words don't fit the picture. What with tramping across the whole thing, figure I'll find out for myself soon enough. Hey, tell me a funny story. You seem like you still got a sense of humor. That was a chuckle, to be sure. Faith. Well, I ain't the religious type, though I was raised in the Christian way. I reckon I don't see no point to trusting a God what could squash you in an instant. Such a situation don't exactly breed trustin'. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those. Were you trying to scare me? Well, you didn't go far enough. Huh. The past is just that. Past. The whole world is at my feet, so why bother talking about the one place I can't go to no more? I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? I usually like the scary stuff, but your story needed more punch, I think. Change. Change ain't coming, stranger. It's already here, so they say. Got a whole country tied together with rails and roads and still can't feed everybody. Between you and me, I think that ain't ever gonna change. Can or can't got nothing to do with it. I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? I don't get too much out of tales that are so cheerful. Not enough excitement for me. The future. I suppose I'll just keep heading west. California sounds mighty fine, and most everyone is heading that way anyhow. Well, sun's coming up, so I've got to get ready to go. Thanks for the tales, friend. Where you heading next? Decided yet? Maybe our paths will cross. I'm going up the road this way myself. Hope I'll see something fun. I generally do, you know. There's interesting things to see everywhere if you keep your eyes open.
Well, I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep that stride stuck in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, I won't be no one else to dig my hole. Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. This will be my tale, my vagrant song. Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare
As you walk along the river near an unfinished bridge, a man with a tool belt catches sight of you. "Hey, over there," he calls out. "You look like you could use a quick way to get some hard-earned money." Hard-earned is right. The bridge hangs high over a perilous drop. "Great!" he exclaims. "Suppose you'll want a safety belt. We Thunderbird people don't need 'em. We fly when we fall." He chuckles. You find yourself up high, looking over the rushing river that crashes around the foundation of the bridge. As you work side by side, the man mentions, "You can see Thunderbirds up here if you know how to look." You ask him to explain. "Practice your peripheral vision, if you dare. Last thing you need up here is for them to see you seeing them and come swooping at you," he says laughingly. You only see the clouds thicken. It sure does pass the time working. The man pays you well when you're done with the job.
Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to
man is the color of mill dust. His smile creases his face like folds in dough. He gestures you inside the dilapidated structure and shouts over the sound of driving wheels.
You're welcome to sleep here. You don't want to rest by the river. Not in the evening. Insects.
Man shoves the broken door closed behind you. The mill is warm, and the air is heavy with the powder kicked up by your entrance. You realize how easy it would be to drift off on this pile of sacks to the loud but constant sound of the grinding wheels. Consciousness is elusive. Your limbs throb with a dull fatigue, and your eyes are sticky with dust. The man suddenly grips your legs and drags you toward the millstone.
You do not love my daughter. You will not have her. I will not let you hurt her.
His voice is pained, not angry. Your hand catches a flour sack printed with brightly colored flowers. A puff of flour makes you sneeze, and you wake. The mill is quiet, its works long disconnected. In your hand is the faded remnant of what might once have been a bag or a piece of a dress. He leans against a fence and turns to face you as you pass him by. At his back is a bag full of birdseed. He assures you that the gawky birds perching on his body are the last remaining passenger pigeons.
They look extinct to you?
You're not sure those dull gray pigeons look anything like the pictures you've seen of passenger pigeons, though you can't help thinking they stare at you a little too intently.
Say, you like birds? They're lovely creatures. Guileless, really. Hunted damn near to extinction, weren't you?
He strokes one of his birds under the chin. You think you see drips of blood flecking the creature's dirty gray head. You sense it's about time you start moving on.
You be kind to the little birds now, you hear?
You hurry along the road, though the flapping of ungainly wings seems to follow you for hours.
Look at you. Well, I didn't know if we'd meet again, but I'm glad we did. Set yourself down here with me and Cass and Flip. Need a drink of water? Need to warm up? Still trying to see much of this country as I can. Folks I meet are sometimes kind, sometimes mean, and sometimes still perplex me. But all of them beats the folks I left behind. How about you? Seen anyone interesting since we last met? I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? Whoa, quite a story, stranger. Freedom? Well, that's what them trains have come to mean to me. Freedom. Crossing a country wider than imagination. I'm in the mood for something real funny like. I usually like the scary stuff, but your story needed more punch, I think. Love story. Well, some of the songs say love is like being sick in your heart. Don't sound too pleasant to me. I love my dogs, but it don't feel like being sick. Being sick in your heart sounds more like getting Judased, something I know a thing or two about. I want a story that scares me. Now I'm older, almost nobody can do it. Give me your best shot. You spin a good yarn. I was shivering there for a little bit. There you go, talking about family. Like I said, don't need nobody but my dogs. Flip's still a little green. Found him starving and angry by the roadside a few months back. He gets riled now and again, but he don't do nothing too bad if you just wait and let him get it out of his system. He's good to have around most times, and Cass sure seems to enjoy the company. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those. Well, I sure was a downer. Give me a good venture tale instead any day. Change. Change ain't coming, stranger. It's got a whole country tied together between you and me. I think that ain't ever gonna change. Can or can't got nothing to do with it. Hey, tell me one of those exciting What's the use in telling sweet happy tales if in they make you snooze? Faith. Well, I ain't the religious type, though I was raised in the Christian way. I reckon I don't see no point to trust such a situation don't... Aw, heck, the night's over already. I sure enjoyed talking to you, but I gotta get on. Sometimes I surely do wonder. Folks have been chasing the dream of tying it up for so long. Now they got their wish. Things are worse than ever. Maybe America was never meant to be held in your hand like this.
I'm gonna scroll my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman comes for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much to find that can be found. Well, I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep lacerates tucked in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, won't be no one else to dig my hole. Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me.
No fence, gate, or sign marks the entrance to the cemetery. Just a moment ago, you weren't surrounded by graves, and now you are.
Well, I'm gonna cast
How long have you been stepping on dead folks, fully unaware? A wood board, bleached white, unknown. The word was painted on black by a steady hand, each letter signed with a flourish. Whoever made this memorial had more compassion than money. The other graves are the same. Unknown. 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 Handwritten. Nondescript. You walk for a while, reading every marker in sight, and not once do you find a name. You emerge from the underbrush and find yourself at the edge of a field. A farmhouse sits at the other end. Close by, a large family is tending to the plants together. They pause and regard you, almost nervously.
Hello there?
The grandmother asks. The family is almost too nice to you. When you ask for water, they don't even let you walk to the pump by the house. The child runs back to the shed for a folding chair, and they serve you lemonade in a glass among the lettuce heads. Halfway through your glass, you notice someone moving furtively down by the house. The cuffs of his white shirt are stained red. The father sees your look and shifts to block your view. His eyes are bright, and his teeth are bared in something like worry.
How do you like your lemonade?
His wife arrives with a bag full of sandwiches for you, and the whole family ushers you back into the woods, waving, wishing you well. You take one look back over your shoulder. The man by the wall is gone.
Chest. This hole ain't gonna heal, and the swing of guitar strings is about the only thing I feel. And if there was second chances, I don't know which way I would choose. Oh, yeah, the thing about down is I need this soul sucker blues.
The blistering sun has scared even birds into the shade. But a middle-aged woman and a young couple are still collecting scraps of cotton that the machinery missed. With a ragged voice, the older woman calls to you. "Got any water?" The three of them rush over to you, suddenly reanimated. They pass around your canteen. When you get it back, it's empty. The woman squeezes your hand and sighs with relief. "Sweetest thing I ever tasted," she tells you.
When they try to throw a wall, we gon' tear it down. Yeah, they try to throw a wall up, we gon' tear it down. We gonna drive the hurting heartache out with a wild and righteous sound. When they try to throw a wall up, we gonna tear it down. Yeah, when they try to throw a wall up, we gonna tear it down.
You find yourself in a poker game on the 3rd floor of the Weinkauf Hotel. Sometimes these things just happen. The man with the burned face to your left, he never gave his name, growls at the smiling man seated on your right. You ain't got the stomach. I killed men for lessons in that pot. Smiler plays on and takes the hand. The burned man bares his teeth. This hand comes down to the burned man and Smiler. Walk away, boy, says the burned man. Smiler drops his grin. Ain't your boy, Roy. Roy's eye twitches. Smiler outplays Roy again, and a new hand comes around. You've got an okay hand. Not a world beater, but not nothing. You play your hand well and push Smiler into folding. You scrape a good number of chips into your pile. Roy's preoccupied and has to be nudged into dealing. You finally hit a decent hand. Roy is still staring at Smiler. What'd you say your name was?
I didn't, but it's Jackson.
Jackson, repeats Roy. I knew a Jackson once. There's a fierce look in Roy's eye. You played it just right. You take the hand and the lion's share of the chips on the table. Smiler cusses. Roy cashes out and slips away. You play a few more rounds, but that hand practically sewed up the game. As you leave the hotel, you smell smoke. You cross the street and look up. Flames have engulfed the 3rd floor, where you played the game. The fire spreads hungrily. People are leaning out of windows on the floors above, but you can't see any way to help.
I'm gonna scroll my name.
You've enjoyed a break on the beach, staring off the edge of the world. But the sun is starting to go down, and the breeze is getting stronger. As you're about to stand, a man plunks down near you. He sits a polite distance off, but looks at you expectantly. He smiles weakly. I just got fired. First Spanish-American radio host in the state, and they fired me. They needed to make cuts, I get that, but I'm twice the... He trails off. I don't know what I'm going to tell my wife. I could try the docks, but there's already more men than jobs, and I could barely support the family on what they pay. He hangs his head. And my boy, I can't bring myself to tell him. I don't know what to do. He calms as the sun drops below the horizon. An expanse of darkness is ahead of you. Turning back to the lights of the city reminds you that the world hasn't gone away. After a long silence, he speaks. It's never going to get better, is it? He doesn't reply. After a minute, you feel along the sand in the dark toward where he sat. Your hand closes on a discarded shirt. The rest of his clothes make a path to the edge of the water. You can't follow him any further.
And by I'll see them far and long. when the night come down for to take me hand in hand. This will be my tale, my vagrant song. Yeah, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that fairy
Faded shotgun houses sit in rows under the tall shadows of smokestacks. A worker in full uniform hollers from a porch. "Hey, traveler! Throw me inside! Got some literature here!" As you shut the door, the man glances out the window and draws the shades. "Landlord toss you out? Ha! Don't mind me, it's none of my business."
I'm gonna have
He pries up a floorboard with a crowbar. You glance over the man's shoulder to see inside the compartment canned goods, a pile of leaflets, the wood stock of a rifle. He replaces the board and stands. He hands you a can of whole potatoes, then a leaflet which reads, "No evictions, no fascists, no hunger." "Headed back to the shop, but we'll have a Bible meet soon."
Well, I got no companion except the wind.
Nothing wrong with that. Careful in those boxcars, traveler, and take care of your neighbor.
I'm cold and empty. They're the ones who'll bury me.
He's small for his age. Boy of 13 or so, sitting on an upturned bucket by the side of a tiny wedge of farmland. The dog, as though by contrast, is massive, an enormous yellow-brown mutt. He's called Rover, the boy explains.
Paul says he can't come with us west.
You notice the Model A truck on the yard, piled high with furnishings and trunks and bags and knots of rope to tie it all together. And upon all that, too, yet more dust and grit.
Paul says it has to be better.
With one toe tip, he scratches a parabola on the dead, dry ground.
Paul says we can't afford to feed Rover no more.
You can't tell where the blonde of the dog's coat ends and the omnipresent dust begins. Same goes for the boy's hair.
Will you take him?
Rover follows you eagerly after you feed him the tiniest sliver of jerky. But a few hours later, he snaps to attention, as though hearing some distant noise your ears can't catch. The last you see of him are the markings left by his dirty pelt on the leaves of the underbrush.
I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my roots into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman comes for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much to find that can be found. Well, I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna.
You look good, honey. You got a life? You like a good story? I like to hear about people and make bets with them. I like to hear about the weird, handsome people. Get convinced by the rich jackasses who'll play blackjack and lose into the night. Dames who are lit cigarettes burning to the end. I want to be around furious people who use me and I use them. Are you one, stranger? Come close to me. Hey, got any exciting stories? Like the movies? Honey, thrills is the stuff I live on. That one will keep me going. The law? I can get by with the law. The law thinks I'm a victim, a sad girl of the streets, a damaged girl, a girl who ain't got no fate and whose daddy didn't love her. My daddy's dead, and all cops are in my pocket, stranger. I will tell you that if I tell you anything. The law is bad for us Roman kids. It does not serve us. But you learn to get that sad, pale girl on. They love that. Sometimes you gotta promise them something more and... Well, I don't say it's pleasant, but you born in a body. Sometimes people treat you like you need the power taken from it. Hey, got any exciting stories? Like the movies? Sounds like you're trying to sell me something with a sad tale. If you want to do that, honey, you gotta make it seem real. Tomorrow's the great gamble. There's a light out there on the horizon, a glow of something golden. There ain't something for all of us out there, but there's that hope. I can tell you're looking for it too. You know, if you stop to look down, there might not be anything below your feet, but you're still moving forward. Hey, got any exciting stories? Well, they should let you make the movies, honey. I won big back in Reno and I got obsessed with luck. I was drinking absinthe at the time and smoking only darn European cigarettes that made me cough like a mule, and boy, after that win, I drank the green very good and smoked like a redwood bonfire. And you know what I learned? I learned to pick my tables and expect music on the jaw. Shit. Got any stories with ghosts or murderers or blood or something like that? Sounds like you're trying to sell me something with a sad tale. You know, I get cleared out now and then. Like being hit in the stomach, like being slapped up good and proper when you watch the chips move away from you. My portrait's on every good casino's wall, sweetheart, but I always come back like a bad penny. Because I can't lose, and I won't. And I'll take everything you got, and losing ain't shit to me when I can get back up. Hey, got any exciting stories? Honey, thrills is the stuff I live on. That one will keep me going. I don't know if you've been on the road that long, stranger. 'Cause you ain't got that exhaustion in your face about moving 'cause you have to. Sometimes you just can't with people. And you, well, you look so hungry for talk right now. Sometimes I'm in a hold'em with 5 other people and I look around and I think, I ain't been alone for 5 hours, and I might set fire to this whole place and walk out of here. You ain't there yet. Next time, let's up the stakes, shall we? Why don't we spend some time with bourbon and 5-card stud? You bring the bourbon, of course. And when the moon's fuller, I might let you in on some secrets on life. Have you any?
Asteroids tucked in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, won't be no one else to dig my hole. Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land. By and by, I'll see them far along. When the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my
You rest in a field where a well-dressed stranger talks your ear off on all manner of subjects. The weather, fireflies in summer, how combine harvesters work. After a while, the mood shifts.
Heard my death bones this morning. Death bones. Heard 'em rattle like clank, clink, clank. More startling than wind chimes in a tornado.
He plucks dry grass and chews on a piece.
Ain't much time left now. That don't matter. I'm fine. Got my savior waiting at the pearly gates.
The man shifts uncomfortably.
At least I do as of this afternoon, I hope. Nearly knocked the pastor's door down earlier. Sure was good to meet you.
The man pauses, rubs his chin in contemplation.
Don't let the bedbugs bite.
He walks off slow. After his silhouette becomes small in the horizon, but before he vanishes, you see him collapse to the ground.
'Cause when that ferryman comes for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much to find that can be found.
The cave is really a man-made hole breaching into an earthen mound. The man, khakis dirtied by kneeling on the rough earth, has assembled a macabre little pile of skulls to the side.
Readying these for sale, friend.
He wipes his hands on his pants.
This pile of skulls, clearly claimed from his enemies by an Indian chieftain, would be perfect for any cabinet of curiosities or sideshow attraction. Why, these skulls belong to no one. They're just here, lying under this mound, waiting for an enterprising soul to make something of them. Isn't this what America's all about?
Little sunlight reaches that deep in, but you can still see the skeletal remains, their heads carelessly removed, laying neatly in their excavated resting places, each one lovingly surrounded by stone effigies, earthenware, and copper plates in the shape of winged warriors. You pause and consider this small man, greedily arranging someone's remains as though they were a trinket for a mantelpiece. It's crude and ridiculous, but he's a crude and ridiculous man. You have him run off the mound, sworn never to tell of what he's seen, for fear of monsters and ghosts. It's a small thing, but a kindness, you hope. First tree in a mile, and it's a stout myrtle with bald branches. No relief from the sun out here. Leaves would help. Someone hadn't replaced them all with dusty glass bottles. You cool down in the shade. The breeze blows through the bottles, making a series of heavy, hollow sounds. You think about wind chimes and the smell of fresh pies on windowsills. The dense sound of many conversations cuts your nap short. There's no one around. Not until you look up at the bottles. They're filled with bright blue orbs, and words echo from them. None seem to notice your presence.
I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep lacerates.
Can't get enough? Porcelain, chrome, the rusty ones? Gotta turn those sleek faucets. Ever find me in a hardware store, I'm gonna haunt it till the cows come home.
Laughter rumbles inside neighboring bottles. Electric lamps stipple the cotton field before you with an orange light, moving like a group of lethargic fireflies. From the field, the voices of the workers reach you in a soulful, united song. You're gently lulled to sleep as the song floats over you. And oh, Lordy, pick a bale of cotton. And oh, Lordy, pick a bale a day. You're pulled out of your slumber by a woman's pained scream and a collection of shouts rising from the field.
Yeah, this will be my tale.
The woman's screams taper off, soon replaced by the raw cries of an infant. Applause briefly fills the night, eventually fading back into song. Oh, Lordy, you wake up to the gentle crescendo of the worker's song, unsure if it ever ceased at all.
Well, I'm gonna scroll my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig
His smile lights up the room, or rather the cab of the locomotive. Folks gather round as he holds the pull cord. He's a showman through and through. You want to cover your ears now for this next part? Sure doesn't help much. Engineer pulls that chain and the whistle blasts inside your skull. He just smiles through it all. Man must be half deaf. A round of applause erupts from the small crowd. He passes out bubble gum to the shell-shocked kids, half of them in awe, half in tears. Remember now who gets you there on the advertised. Casey Jones. Everyone's all talk as they head back to their seats. That engineer sure is handsome. Gosh, and that whistle sounded just like a whippoorwill, didn't it? Ain't this the way to travel?
Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. When the night come down for to take me hand in hand,
Excusez-moi.
Beckoning you over, the woman shows you a letter, beautifully typeset on thick vellum. You're struck by the scent of a fancy department store. She points on the parchment to the address.
This address, you know?
You are dismayed to read the first paragraph. Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet. And the address under the monogram in the letterhead. 12345 Road Street, Anytown, USA. The woman blinks, hopefully, leaning close over your shoulder.
Yes? You know this place?
She asks. Poor woman. She's been tricked. You send her around a nearby corner at random.
Merci!
She exclaims, clasping the letter to her bosom, stars in her eyes.
Enfin, mon héritage attend.
She hurries down the street, gone before you can change your mind.
Well, I met a man downtown, smile as white as death.
A family of 9 invites you into their home for a meal. Hogs roam free in the yard. They wallow in shady patches of cool mud, not paying any mind as you pass. During supper, the hard wind puts an awful burden on the walls. The glass dishes rumble on the table, but the mother seems calm.
Can't butcher a hog in these parts without me, Ma, hollering for pig's feet.
The mother raises up her shoulders into a stern posture.
I teach my children to only fear the Lord. We don't have haints, just me, Ma.
Now I got a crater in my chest. This hole ain't gonna heal. And the sting of guitar strings is about the only thing I feel. And if it was second chances, I don't know which way I would choose. Oh, yeah, the thing about down is I need this soul sucker blues. Going down to the river, gonna cleanse my soul. Going down to the river, gonna cleanse my soul. That current gonna take firm hold of me. That water gonna make me whole. Going down to the river, gonna cleanse my soul. Won't heed temptation.
The soldier sits in the dirt with his legs splayed out, like a child would sit. Beneath the tattered fabric of his antique uniform, several open wounds fester in the hot sun.
Lend a hand, traveler?
You kneel in front of the soldier. His body is marked with bullet holes, along with deeper wounds that could be from knives or bayonets. Maggots squirm inside the raw, red flesh.
About time I earned an amputation. You seen any bluebellies around?
The soldier leans in, uncomfortably close to inspect your features. Were his pupils solid white before now? He tilts his head, narrows his eyes, sniffs you.
What are you, stranger?
A shadow falls on the soldier's face.
You damn Yankee!
He pulls you in by the wrist and drives a Bowie knife into your gut. As the blade bites your flesh, the soldier stares into your eyes, his body dispersing into the wind like a cloud of dandelion seeds.
I always knew you'd come loping back my way and catch me checking for marks. How you been, traveler? I'm afraid I got myself in some damn tight spots since we last made bets with each other. It's the way of the world. You give too much, someone gon' take away too much. Just don't mind me if I seem like I'm wincing. It ain't you. It's just love making its way to hell. Come over. Come sit. Got any stories with ghosts or murderers or blood or something like that? Quit it, stranger. That sweet nonsense'll kill me young, faster than the drinking do. In a country like this, it's like a death sentence. Someone takes your money like that. Some kid steals from you like that. But you can always dodge death. You can't dodge yourself. The hatred of yourself, the way other people makes you hate yourself. You think, hey, someone took from me like that. Was I not graceful, Lord? Got any stories with ghosts or murder? Sounds like you're trying to sell me something with a sad tale. I guess when you've been hurt like that, you wonder what the other person were thinking when they doing the damage. This boy, though, he were patient and fine looking. When I saw him with my baseball bag, I knew. As I ran up to snatch it back, I knew. And when he hit me, it hurt two kinds. It hurt two kinds. And the kind without the blood hurts the worst. Because the body heals and the mind don't. Hey, got any excitement? Honey, thrills is the stuff I live on. That one will keep me going. Freedom's a trap. The more they tell you you have it, the more they've taken it away. The more you try to move toward it, the more... I left jail one morning and the jailer said a sweet goodbye. And I walk out into the town square and a man spit on me for looking like I weren't dressed for outside. Hey, got any exciting stories? Sweetheart, did I say I wanted to hear some crap joke? I blame myself. My old stepdaddy used to tell me to never trust a croupier. He used to say them that deals the cards works on house rules. But I never really learned about love. I try not to give it away in case trust had to go with it. And of course I fell in love with this young croupier with his blue eyes. And no one ever tells you that love makes you trust whether you like it or not. And I was real stupid. Love ain't 5 walks home with a few touches and a long conversation. God damn, Dupree. Hey, got any to be self-sufficient. To be indulged that once, you know? I've been thinking about this one pinko that came by the creek recently. He said that an uneven life was manufactured, but it didn't always have to be peaks and troughs, that evening it out was a way it could be. I think about that for a long time. Is it best to be in a slow-moving river all the time? And never have your heart in your mouth at the rapids? And the night's ending. I see a lot more of these sunrises than I ought to, I think. But it's beautiful, so it can't be all harm, can it? I was recently spending a lot of time out late with that boy, which I regret. But what can you do? Nothing but move on, and hold some scorn for yourself in your pocket till you learn your lesson. Keep an eye out if you find yourself nearby, all right? We can talk again, sweetheart. And share another bottle, and maybe play some cards.
up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep the last rides tucked in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, won't be no one else to dig my hole.
A sign in town says a farmer is hiring for the sugarcane harvest. A bag-eyed man drives you and 10 hungry strangers out into the cane, where he leaves you. Everyone gets a hatchet, but no instruction. The foreman is missing for some reason. Nobody is sure what to do. A young man in a red jacket stuffs all the hatchets in his pack. "This is stupid," he says. "I'm leaving. You can get $5 for a nice axe like this." He marches off into the cane, and others follow. "Don't!" a young woman shouts after them. "It's not right." You trot after the thief. For some reason, though, the path back out to the road is narrower and darker than you remember, and the sun is lower in the sky, and the mud sucks harder at your boots than it did a minute ago. Soon, you've lost track of the others. You're pushing through the cane, coated to your thighs in mud. The sun is missing. You hear voices ahead, but you can't see anyone. You stumble out onto the bank of a pit. At the bottom, sugarcane stalks push up, twisted and crazy through a mat of bones, rusted hatchets, and ripped scraps of red jacket. Shit. You turn and bolt through the cane and burst suddenly out onto the dry road and the hot sun.
I'm gonna scroll my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman comes for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much to find that can be found. I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep the last rides tucked in my soul. 'Cause when my coals burn low and my trains run out of track, won't be no one else to dig my hole. Far and long, when the night this will be my tale, my vagrant song.
We need a sixth,
she told you, beckoning from the steps of a great dark mansion. And just like that, you found yourself sitting with strangers around a velvet-draped table. Her voice is reedy and high, modulated by the tight collar of her Victorian dress.
Join hands, everyone.
Your host keeps her eyes closed as she beseeches the spirits of the dead. But everyone else around the table lets one lingering, awkward glance bounce around between them. You sense they're just about done humoring her when it happens. A deep, nasty thump beneath the table. The whole table starts to shake, threatening to lift right off the ground. And then, the staid candle flames start flickering like mad, casting ghastly shadows on the walls. And then, a viciously cold wind cuts through the parlor like sharpened ice. The damned candles are dancing in mid-air around you now, singeing a hair here and there off the coiffed heads of these well-heeled guests. You notice your host across the table has her eyes open wider than they should go, a rivulet of blood dripping from her nose. When you come to your senses, sunrise has begun to creep in. The parlor is empty but for you and the woman in the old-fashioned dress, who slumped dejectedly over the table.
He didn't show up. All that sound and fury, and no sign of his spirit.
Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. When the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. Yeah, this will be my tale, my vagrant song.
He sings as he works, his voice warm and soft as the late afternoon sun. The air's sweet with the tang of recently cut sugarcane. There's a practiced, almost soothing precision to the way he works. He looks up and nods hello. "Making molasses," he says to your unasked question. I sell the blackstrap in town. Farmers use it for feed. Bitter as hell. He grins. I don't notice shit no more. I've been doing this a while. I keep back a few bottles to share. I don't charge neither. Folks around here need what they can get. Makes a mean loaf of bread. He nods at the barrels. I'm about done filtering. Got to boil it next. Lend a hand? You help him haul the barrels over to the metal boiler. You pour in the juice and set the fire. It's hot work. He fetches water and dark bread, and you share the small meal and a smile. It's good to find another who takes joy in honest labor.
Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er
The lightning starts in the next valley over. Then the wind picks up. The long grass hisses. And suddenly, it's raining so hard you can barely breathe without a hand over your mouth. The lightning momentarily illuminates a farmhouse on the opposite hilltop. The only one for miles. Much closer, though, is a silhouette of a dilapidated barn. You pound and pound on the door of the house, but you only get confused shouts from inside. Soon, you give up and head to the unlocked shed, where the empty wood bin makes a good enough bed. In the morning, you're woken suddenly by the sound of clattering china. A tiny old woman bends over you, silently offering you coffee. She serves you half the pot before she lets you get up and leave for the morning.
Well, I'm gonna scroll my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that fairy...
Evening there. You looking for a sermon or just a chat? Don't really matter, frankly. First thing I ever learned behind the pulpit is that every homily is just a conversation. Ain't as one-sided as you might think either. Preachers ain't shepherds, they're cowboys. They gotta run with the flock, keep them directed without fencing them in. So how about you take a seat and guide us somewhere? You must have seen some pretty wild stuff on the road. What's the most exciting thing you've seen? You've got a pretty wild life, you know that? Authority? People look to me for leadership, but I tell them that real leadership comes from community. The best preachers are cornerstones, not prophets. Lately, my journey's been pretty ordinary, just walking church to church. What about you? Been on any adventures? Tearjerkers need a little more truth in them, I think. Freedom? I have it now. I hear it a lot. You give the best sermons I ever heard, Brother Jimmy. Why don't you become a pastor and start your own church? Well, I like the freedom. Jesus didn't preach to the Canaanites alone after all. So no church or temple or praise house for me. My congregation is America itself. Hey, do you have any spooky campfire tales? Feels appropriate out here. Oh, you got me for a second with that one. Luck? Forget about luck. Think about necessity. See, you focus on luck, you end up dreaming about what-if scenarios. But ain't nothing promised. You hear me? Instead, think on what you know you can do, what you have to do, and learn to do it right. Anyway, why don't you tell me a scary story? You must have heard some good ones. Oh, you could rattle a congregation's bones, I bet. The past? My earliest memories of my mother and father teasing each other, laughing about something I didn't quite understand. Putting on voices, playing games. This was back before she passed. Hey, do you have any spooky campfire tales? Feels appropriate out here, right? Different folks have different senses of humor, I suppose. We all got faith. Every day we stride out into the world, that's faith. Faith that our time alive is limited, and that we must act during our hours and minutes on earth. Faith that what we do matters at all. We all got faith, see? It's just a matter of whether or not we got belief. Well, I gotta get moving on. I have a sermon to give in the morning, and the church is a long night of walking that way. Walk like you're blessed, child, because even if you ain't, that's the only way you'll find your holy self.
For the tally of my worth, I won't leave much to find that can be found. Well, I'm gonna heft my spade up upon my weary back. I'm gonna keep elasterites tucked in my soul. my trains run out of track, won't be no one else to dig my hole. Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. When the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. Yeah, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. Well, I'm gonna scroll